As more and more of social life relies on digital technologies, data about us is increasingly collected and analysed. Governments are also using data analytics for organising and allocating public services. People are categorised, assessed, and their behaviour predicted to address issues such as benefit fraud, child welfare, and policing. This is what we described as citizen scoring in a recent research project called Data Scores as Governance. We are the Data Justice Lab, and we are dedicated to exploring how society is impacted by digital technologies. In this video, we provide an overview of citizen scoring in the UK. Governments at all levels are combining different data points and creating data warehouses in order to make use of the vast range of data about people's lives that is now being collected. These integrated datasets can include data bought from data brokers, as well as data connected to our interactions with public services. Councils and local authorities are doing different things when it comes to data, and there are no standard practices for what it is appropriate to do. Some are also applying predictive analytics to this data to assess the needs, risks, and vulnerabilities of people. Whilst some councils are developing these systems in-house, several contract private companies to help them. Let's look more closely at one example. Data analytics for policing in the UK is being used to map neighbourhoods for crime trends and the likelihood of crime. Some police forces are also using data systems to assess and score the risk of people as offenders and potential victims based on their behaviour and characteristics, or to rank offenders from low to high risk. Data used can include crime and intelligence data, missing people data, operational data, data held by council agencies, demographic data, and even weather data. The risk assessments are used to help inform police and caseworkers about how to allocate resources, who to engage with, and when. In some cases, they have also been used to help inform decisions about custody. These data systems are now part of how the police is organised, and although it is said that they do not determine decisions or override professional judgment, they help inform the kinds of actions taken. In child welfare, there are similar risk assessment tools being used that draw on different social issue datasets to predict the vulnerability of a child. This score can be based on how data about an individual's behaviour and characteristics compares to previous victims of child exploitation. A lot depends on how exactly data systems are implemented. How are police and social workers trained to make use of these risk scores? To what extent do they feel influenced by them? How do scoring systems change who is engaged with and who is not? These are important questions because the turn to data-driven systems for decision-making is a contentious issue. To start with, people have little ability to know how their data is being collected, used, and shared. Also, predictions and inferences about people based on their data are not always that accurate. But if you cannot see your score, or even know you're being scored, how will you be able to challenge any of this? Generally, the lack of information available about where and how these new types of scoring systems are being used makes it difficult to have a public debate about this. Researchers and civil society groups are also raising concerns about how these systems can discriminate and stigmatize. We know from studies that have been done on different kinds of systems all over the world that discrimination can happen unintentionally. Discrimination can enter a system through the kind of data that is used, or in the way that certain variables in any algorithm come to count more than others, for example, whether or not you're a single mother or where you live. This can mean that some groups or communities are targeted and stigmatized, especially those who are poor, disadvantaged, or historically marginalized. There is also a danger that these systems further focus limited resources on measuring individuals and not the kind of social factors that we know can help prevent crises. For example, by measuring school absences but not the impact of school cuts, or by measuring missed payments but not increasing precarious employment and benefit cuts. In other words, these systems focus even more attention on individuals and away from structural causes of social problems. The turn to ever more uses of and increasingly automated forms of risk assessment in public services therefore means that we need to pay attention to how government bodies may be changing the way they relate to people. Governments could be telling us where and how automated systems like the kind we have identified are being used, and make publicly available details about how data about citizens is being shared and with who. This would be a first step, but there is a lot more we can do. To find out more about the research behind this video, visit us at datajusticelab.org.